At 0647 local time on April 14, 2026, the guided missile destroyer USS Spruance, DDG-111, was 3 hours into a patrol sweep 40 nautical miles south of the Strait of Hormuz. On her radar scope, scattered contact, merchant traffic, routine morning Gulf activity. This was day 2 of America's first naval blockade of Iranian ports in 38 years. Then, one contact changed course.
An Iranian-flagged cargo vessel had slipped out of Bandar Abbas, one of Iran's primary export ports, and was now hugging the Iranian coastline, trying to exit the strait through Iranian territorial waters instead of the main shipping lane. If it worked, Iran would have its first blockade breach. It would not work. The tactical action officer hit the command net. The Spruance closed the contact. U.S. Central Command opened the radio channel. And the message broadcast across the open maritime frequency was one that no U.S. Navy ship has transmitted in this region since 1988. If you do not comply with this blockade, we will use force. The whole of the United States Navy is ready to force compliance.
Here is how the U.S. Navy is enforcing the blockade. CENTCOM has positioned 11 guided missile destroyers in the Arabian Sea, outside the Gulf, controlling what enters and exits through the strait. Above them, Boeing P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft flying at 20,000 feet, with radar systems that can track surface contacts across hundreds of square miles simultaneously. Now, Iran's response to this has been what maritime intelligence experts call spoofing. Ships linked to Iran have been broadcasting false AIS transponder signals, transmitting fake GPS positions, showing themselves as loading in Saudi Arabia when they're actually loading in Iran, switching flags from Iranian to Pakistani or Indian registration. The theory? If the ship looks like it's not Iranian, it won't be stopped. Here is the problem with that theory. The P-8 Poseidon's radar does not care what a ship's transponder says. It tracks the physical vessel. When a ship's transponder says it's in Saudi Arabia, but the radar shows it in Iranian waters, that ship is flagged. Signals intelligence then cross-references the vessel's communications, its engine signatures, its hull profile. Clayton Siegel of CSIS described what the US is watching. A ship will show it's loading in Saudi Arabia, but it's actually loading in Iran.
Result: in the first 48 hours, 13 ships intercepted. 0 breakthrough. If a ship refuses to comply, warning shots first, then disabling fire, aimed at the engine or navigation systems. Then, a boarding team of 10 to 14 Navy sailors takes physical control of the vessel and guides it to an anchorage in Oman. Iran's Dark Fleet, its spoofed ships, its coastal routes, 0 for 13. What makes this blockade historically significant is not just what is happening now, it is what happened on this exact date 38 years ago. April 18, 1988. The same strait, the same Iranian ports, the same confrontation. In 1988, during the Iran-Iraq tanker war, the USS Samuel B. Roberts struck an Iranian mine in these waters. The U.S. Navy responded with Operation Praying Mantis, and in a single day, American warships sank or disabled half of Iran's entire operational navy. 2 Iranian frigates, 1 gunboat, 3 speedboats, destroyed in approximately 6 hours. Iran never recovered naval dominance of the Gulf after that day. 38 years later, the U.S. Navy is back in the same waters. But Iran's navy this time is already 90% destroyed. Not from this blockade, from the first 2 weeks of the war. U.S. CENTCOM confirmed 19 Iranian warships destroyed by April 5th. Iran's only operational submarine sunk. Its naval commander killed in an Israeli strike. What is left of the Iranian Navy cannot challenge what is now assembling in the Gulf of Oman.
While the USS Spruance was redirecting Iranian cargo vessels, 3 aircraft carrier strike groups were converging on the region. USS Abraham Lincoln, already on station since before the war. USS Gerald Ford, now on its 296th consecutive day of deployment. 296 days. That is a post-Vietnam War record for a U.S. carrier. Ordered first to the Mediterranean, then to the Caribbean for the Venezuela operation, then to the Middle East. The sailors on board have not been home in 10 months. And now, USS George H.W. Bush CVN-77 is deploying to join them. 6,000 additional sailors, another air wing of approximately 75 aircraft, another Aegis-equipped strike group, 3 nuclear-powered carriers, 3 floating airfields. This is the largest U.S. naval concentration in the Persian Gulf region since the lead-up to the 2003 Iraq invasion. Defense Secretary Hegseth was asked at the Pentagon on Thursday whether the U.S. could sustain the blockade. His answer was 3 words.
America is now the gatekeeper of 20% of the world's oil supply. The last time this happened? 1988. It lasted 1 day and ended with half of Iran's navy on the ocean floor. This blockade is now entering its 5th day. 13 ships turned back, 0 breakthroughs, $400 million per day draining from Iran's economy, 2 U.S. destroyers sweeping mines inside the strait, 3 carriers in the region. And in Islamabad this week, another round of talks that will determine whether the blockade becomes the pressure that ends this war or the trigger that restarts it. Subscribe now. The moment those talks produce a result, that video drops immediately.